hope to not do too many of these, but a few weeks ago, JD and I we were recording overtime, and I think we were getting ready to do the Dangerous Alliance podcast that we were doing. And but before that, like right before we were about to go on air, Rossi Ogawa got fired from Stardom. And right after Rossi got fired, Tony Khan took to Twitter and was like making fun of Rossi. And he posted a GIF of Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David and Richard Lewis. So I go on and I pull up the GIF because that's how we do it. Like I pull up the tweet and it says, and I said, and here's Tony Khan making fun of Rossi using a GIF of Larry David and the late great Richard Lewis. Now this was a few weeks ago, and JD goes, "Richard Lewis is dead?" And I go, I think so. I was like, hold on, shit, let me look that up. So I go online and I was like, oh shit, no, it wasn't him. And we just start laughing our ass like we're howling at this point. It's like, because Mike's basically because I'm an idiot. And then what happened was, and like I clipped it for YouTube. I'm not going to share it right now because I think it's kind of scummy to do that to watch it again. But what happened? Like I didn't clip this part, but like the longer version of that clip was I had come to the conclusion that I got him mixed up with Richard Belzer. Because they're comedians from like the same era. They're from the East Coast. They did Howard Stern a lot back in the day. Both guys, but I know that they're completely different people. But I just got them mixed up in the moment, right? And so we had a good laugh about that. And I felt kind of bad about it. And then of course, the man had to go ahead and die. I think he died today, didn't he? Was it today or yesterday? I can't remember. I think it was last night.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday. It was the same day as Virgil. It was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. So I got a little bit of egg on my face, but I do got to say, he was a brilliant comedian. I really was a fan of his, and I really liked watching his stand up back in the day. And I always had a really fun time watching him on the late night shows. He did Leno a lot when I was a kid, and he was always on the Howard Stern show, and that's kind of probably where like my best frame of reference for his comedy is. And then of course he was in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and I just loved his performance in that movie. So I just want to give a shout out to rest in peace Richard Lewis, a comedic genius. I didn't know that he had Parkinson's disease when I said that, so also it kind of makes me look like a scumbag, but that was not intentional, clearly. So it was just kind of a funny accident. But yeah, just a rest in peace to the man, the king of pain himself, Richard Lewis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was a big fan as well. I like the neurotic aspect of his comedy, which that was very fresh. Yet I look up here in Canada, we didn't get Stern, so there was no way for me to get that kind of exposure. But he had a sitcom. He had a couple, but he had one with Jamie Lee Curtis. That was called,
really?
That was called Anything But Love, and she was a freshly divorcee, rebuilding her life, moving to Chicago, and she's on a plane with this neurotic columnist for whatever paper or magazine, and she wants to be a writer, so she helps him. He helps her get a job at his publication, and it just so happens that they decide that they share an apartment. He says, well, whatever, and my memory doesn't tell me that this was hilarious or great. Nothing sticks, but nonetheless, I saw, how he would deliver, how he would perform. And I thought that was a lot of fun. And looking back, you're like, geez, this is with Jamie Lee Curtis on top of that. Couldn't have been that bad, right? You'd have to dig those up somewhere.
It might be worth like another look, because he's one of those guys that's a little bit ahead of his time. And I think he actually found like the perfect role for him in Curb Your Enthusiasm. So like it just took a long time for him to get there. Not that he wasn't a big comedian, because he really, like in the late 80s, early 90s, like Richard Lewis was a very big comedian. Him and Belzer and Richard Jenny and Sam Kinison and all those guys from that era. They were huge and selling out big shows. So
Carlin,
yeah.
Lily Tomlin, and I think one of his trademarks was making fun of his sexual exploits, how he would underperform in bed when everyone else was doing the exact opposite. He was like, no, I tried and it didn't work and whatever.
Yeah, because like Eddie Murphy was like the complete opposite, where he was like kind of like bragging about how great he was and all that, and then here you got Richard Lewis, the complete opposite. So rest in peace, Richard Lewis. Funny guy. Sorry to see him go.